Have you ever walked into a room and felt the shift? Not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't. There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't raise its voice, doesn't explain, doesn't justify. It simply steps back. And in that stillness, everything begins to change. Most people are used to noise, constant replies, instant reactions, the comfort of predictability. But the moment you stop being so available, the world around you starts to panic. People begin to wonder what changed, what they did wrong. They chase, they question, they try to provoke. But they're not searching for truth, they're searching for control. And that's where the shift begins. Carl Jung didn't believe that power came from dominance. He believed it came from awareness, from knowing yourself so deeply that you could choose not to respond, not to play the game. So ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped giving away your attention so freely? What if your silence became your strength? This isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming conscious. Because when you stop being available, everything changes. Since childhood, you've been taught that being available is a good thing. Answer quickly. Say yes. Smile, even when you want to scream. Keep the peace, at any cost. But over time, this conditioning turns into something dangerous. It becomes a habit so deep that you don't even realize it's running your life. You react without thinking. You give when you're empty. You show up for people who would never do the same for you. And every time you do, you lose a little more of yourself. People get used to it. They start to expect it. Not out of love, but out of convenience. And here's the hard truth. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to control. Your reactions become buttons they can push. Say the right thing, get the same response. Poke the right wound, and watch you unravel. It's not personal, it's psychological. And it works because you're always available, always ready to fix, to explain, to please. But when you stop reacting, when you don't answer right away, when you say no without guilt, the whole dynamic collapses. The ones who benefited from your emotional availability won't know what to do with you anymore, because you're not playing the role they gave you. You're starting to play yourself. We all wear a mask. Carl Jung called it the persona, the version of ourselves we present to the world. It's not fake, it's functional. It helps us navigate society, get accepted, feel safe. But over time, the mask can become a prison. You say, "It's fine," even when it's not. You smile when you're exhausted. You respond to texts when you'd rather be left alone. You show up not because you want to, but because you think you have to. You become the reliable one, the fixer, the peacekeeper. But behind the mask, you're suffocating. The persona is meant to protect you. But when you rely on it too much, when you make yourself available to everyone, all the time, you begin to disappear. Your truth gets buried under expectations. Your needs are silenced in the name of being easy to be around. And slowly, you forget what you even feel unless someone else is feeling it first. You become emotionally available not because you're generous, but because you're afraid. Afraid to disappoint, afraid to be rejected, afraid to be alone. But living like that is emotional self-abandonment, and the world doesn't thank you for it. It just takes more. Every yes you don't mean, every explanation you don't owe, it's energy being bled out to keep a version of you alive that was never meant to carry this much weight. The truth is, people don't fall in love with your authenticity when you're always available. They fall in love with the role you play, and if you ever stop playing it, they'll say you've changed. But you haven't changed. You've just taken the mask off. Carl Jung believed that the human mind isn't just a storage room of thoughts. It's an energy system. Everything you do, think, feel, or say spends a little of that psychic energy. And just like physical energy, once it's spent, it's gone. So the real question is, where is your energy going? Every time you respond to a message that irritates you, you're spending energy. Every time you defend yourself to someone who's already decided to misunderstand you, you're giving away your peace. Every time you replay an argument in your head or rehearse what you should have said, You're leaking energy into something that no longer exists. And if you do this all day, every day, it's no wonder you feel drained, disconnected, or numb. You think you're just being polite, or keeping the peace, or doing what's expected of you. But in reality, you're being emotionally robbed because you haven't learned how to protect your psychic energy. Jung warned that what we resist persists. The more we react to every small trigger, the more those patterns tighten their grip on us. You're not just reacting, you're reinforcing the very dynamics that wear you out. Here's the shift. Power is not in reacting. It's in choosing when and if you act at all. Learning to guard your energy is not selfish. It's survival. It's knowing when to say no. It's letting some comments go unanswered. It's walking away from a conversation that doesn't nourish you. It's being okay with not proving your point, because not every fire deserves your fuel. When your energy is well managed, you become magnetic. You walk into a room and people feel something they can't name. Stability, presence, control. That's psychic power. But when your energy is scattered, when you're reacting to everything, you become fragile. Easy to manipulate, easy to hurt, easy to drain. The difference: one protects its energy, the other gives it away. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That quote cuts deeper than most realize, because it means that when someone lashes out at you, when they criticize you, ignore you, or guilt trip you, it might not have anything to do with you at all. It's projection. People throw their inner chaos onto others to avoid facing it. And if you're always emotionally available, always open, always present, always giving, they'll use you as a screen to project their fears, shame, and insecurities. You become the problem when really, you're just the mirror. Ever notice how the same people who need you the most are also the ones who get angry when you pull away? That's not love. That's control disguised as connection. The manipulation isn't loud, it's silent. It's in the look that says, "Why didn't you respond sooner?" It's in the guilt trip. "I guess you don't care anymore." It's in the unspoken rule that says you always have to be available, or you're the bad guy. But here's what no one tells you. They don't have to manipulate you directly. They just need you to keep reacting the same way. Say yes when you mean no. Apologize just to keep the peace. Explain yourself even when no explanation is owed. These aren't just habits, they're strings. And the more you react, the more tangled you become. When you stop reacting, when you say no or simply stay silent, the illusion collapses. That's why people get uncomfortable. Because now, without your reactions, they're left alone with themselves. And many don't want to face what's there. Your unavailability exposes their dependence. Your silence takes away their narrative control. Suddenly, you're not the comfort zone anymore. You're the confrontation they've been avoiding. And this might hurt, but it's the truth. You were never being loved. You were being used as an emotional cushion, a distraction, a source of validation. But now, you're choosing something else. You're choosing to break the cycle, not to punish anyone, but to finally protect yourself. There's a silence that feels like surrender, and then there's the kind that feels like sovereignty. When most people think of silence, they think of passivity, weakness, avoidance. But the truth is, real silence, the kind that comes from awareness, not fear, is one of the most powerful forces you can tap into. Because it isn't emptiness, it's precision. Carl Jung understood this. He didn't view silence as retreat, but as a return to self. A moment where noise is stripped away and clarity can enter. Where reaction stops and real power begins. Think about how people behave when you don't respond, when you don't explain yourself, when you don't play into the drama. They panic, not because you're gone, but because your silence strips away their control. While you spoke, they could guide the narrative, but in your stillness, their scripts fall apart. That's not just absence. That's presence magnified. Silence gives you space to observe, to see who tries to provoke you just to get a response, to notice patterns, people who only reach out when they need something, conversations that go nowhere but drain everything. It teaches you emotional discipline, the kind of discipline that lets you say, I don't have to engage with this. Because not every fire deserves your oxygen. The world is full of noise. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone's rushing to be right, to be loud, to be first. But the few who master silence, they shift the room without speaking. They disarm manipulation without confrontation. They preserve energy, not because they're indifferent, but because they've finally realized peace is expensive, and not everyone deserves a piece of it. Silence, when it's conscious, is not avoidance. It's mastery. And the world doesn't know what to do with someone who doesn't need to react. You were not born to be a constant source of comfort, validation, or availability for everyone around you. Yet somewhere along the line, you were taught that being a good person meant being endlessly open, responsive, and agreeable. But here's the truth. That version of you isn't sustainable. It's self-erasing. Carl Jung spoke of psychic energy as your life force, finite, precious, and deeply personal. If you're not choosing where it goes, someone else is. Every time you respond to a message out of guilt, you give away energy. Every time you say yes when your soul screams no, you abandon yourself. Every time you prioritize keeping the peace over keeping your center, you chip away at your sovereignty. But you can stop. You can reclaim that energy. Not with anger, but with awareness. Reclaiming your energy is about making peace sacred again. It means answering when you're ready, not when you're expected. It means leaving conversations that go nowhere. It means choosing rest over obligation and not apologizing for it. This kind of boundary doesn't make you distant. It makes you clear. And yes, it may confuse people. It may disappoint them. But that's okay, because your worth is not measured by how accessible you are. It's measured by how much you honor your own space. You are not responsible for how others feel about your limits. You are responsible for how much of yourself you allow to be drained in the name of being nice. This is your energy, your life, your terms, and it's time you took the power back. When you stop being available to everyone, you don't just create distance, you create space. And at first, that space feels unsettling. It's quiet, too quiet. You feel the discomfort of your own company. You question if you're doing the right thing. You wonder if you're being too harsh, too distant, too much. The silence feels like punishment, not power. But wait, that silence you're hearing? That's your own voice, finally given room to speak. That emptiness? That's the space where clarity is being born. And that solitude? That's not isolation, it's sacred. Carl Jung called it individuation, the process of stepping away from the collective noise to rediscover who you really are. It's not about turning your back on people, it's about facing yourself without distraction. And in this space, you begin to feel again, deeply and honestly. You realize how much of your life was spent reacting, how many friendships existed out of obligation, how often you gave pieces of yourself away just to keep others comfortable. Now, you are no longer playing a role. You're meeting yourself, maybe for the first time. And yes, some people will leave. Some won't understand. They weren't connected to you, they were connected to your function, your compliance, your emotional availability. But in their absence, something new is born. Freedom. Not the kind that's loud or rebellious, but the kind that lives quietly inside your chest. You stop chasing connection and start becoming it. You stop managing impressions and start embodying truth. You realize, being alone isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of self, and that presence is where your real life begins. When you stop being constantly available, something extraordinary happens. You become rare, not because you've changed into someone new, but because you finally remembered who you are. The world doesn't know what to do with someone who isn't always ready to explain, to help, to bend. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you distant. But what they're really saying is, you stopped being useful to me. And that's the point. You're no longer trying to earn love through access. You're no longer proving your worth through emotional labor. You're no longer handing out pieces of your peace to people who never offered you any in return. You are choosing presence over performance, silence over drama, boundaries over burnout. And it won't be easy. There will be loneliness, there will be guilt, but there will also be strength, stillness, sovereignty. Carl Jung believed that becoming whole requires stepping away from the world, so you can return to it as yourself. This is your return, not as someone everyone understands, but as someone no one controls. You are no longer available for crumbs, you are now available for truth, and that changes everything.